Hi everyone, and welcome to Market Audience and Social Research, SPSS, workshop number 8. I'm Kelly Koff, and in today's workshop, I'll help you learn how to do predictive analysis in SPSS using multiple regressions to investigate. So this is a really powerful tool in marketing because it means we can use the independent variables to make predictions about the dependent variable as long as we build the model right. So it's really important for things like defining the market segmentation and predicting consumer behaviour. So for this exercise, we're going to build a general conceptual model of market segmentation of the Hobbit's Choice restaurant. Okay, so the main thing you need to remember from your first year stats is that there's some assumptions that we make when we do regressions. So the first assumption is that the relationship between the variables is going to be linear. So that means that you can chart it using a straight line. So it's usually rise over run. The second assumption is that the residual errors are normally distributed. And the third assumption is that the residual errors are independent and they have an equal variance. The final assumption really is regarding the multi-collinearity. This assumption is that there's a low intercorrelation for independent, exogenous, and predictive variables. And as a general rule, we need to keep in mind that it's important to have at least 5 points of data for each independent variable which is included in the regression. So for this exercise, we're going to be using our Hobbit data file again, so we've got plenty of data to analyse. Okay, so let's open that now. We'll just open SPSS by clicking on the file. Then we'll click on Hobbit data and open, and that will open up for us. Okay, so for the first question, we're asked to develop a general conceptual model of the market segmentation for the Hobbit's Choice restaurant. So after we do that, we're going to test the model using multiple regression analysis and then interpret our findings. Okay, so let's get started. So first of all, we're going to develop our model. We do that by going to Analyze and then down to Regression. So once we find regression, we just go across and then down to Linear. So Analyze, Regression, Linear, and just click on that one. That's going to open up our Linear Regression tab. So the first thing we're going to do is put our dependent variable, which is likely, across into that field there. So how likely would it be for you to patronise this restaurant, the new upscale restaurant? Keep that one there. Now we're going to transfer our independent variables across. So there's 3 different kinds of variables that we're going to look at for the independent variables. That's going to be demographic variables, the restaurant patronage variables, and the restaurant feature preferences variables. So we'll find those and bring those across. We'll just stretch out this so that we can see what the variables are. Okay, so our demographic variables are things like year born. We can use either year born or age. I'm going to put year born across. Our income, recoded income, bring that across. And then family size. So fam size, we'll bring that one across. Now we'll look at the restaurant patronage variables, which is the average price and the total spent. So that's this one here and this one here. And then the last group of variables that we're going to bring across are the restaurant feature preference variables. So these include the water, drive, wait staff, dessert, variety, unusual, simple, elegant, string, and jazz. So we've got water, drive, wait staff, dessert, variety, unusual, simple, elegant, string, and jazz. So I'm just going to collect the top one there, water, hold down shift, and then hit the bottom one, jazz. Now drag and drop all of those across. That's just a quick way of doing it rather than doing it individually. And this is going to give us a really robust model. Okay, so now we've got our independent variables and our dependent variable in, we can come down to our method. So go to method and make sure that stepwise is selected there. So click on the enter, the down button, and find stepwise. Click on that one and that will change. Then we need to just click on Statistics, the first button on the right here. Click on that one. That's going to open up our linear regression statistics dialog box. Here we just need to make sure we've got estimates ticked, model fit ticked, and then collinearity diagnostics ticked as well. Then we can click on Continue. Now, before we click OK, we just need to click the options and open the linear regressions option box. Just here, fourth button down. This is just to make sure the use the probability of F is already selected, and the defaults of the entry and removal is 0.5 and 0.10. So just checking on that, this is fine. So we'll hit Continue. Then we can just click OK and let SPSS perform the analysis. So now after putting all that in, SPSS has returned 3 variables for us, which is what would you expect an average evening meal entree item alone to be priced, prefer formal wait staff wearing tuxedos, and the year that someone is born. So now with those 3 variables, we can come down and have a look at the model summary. So here we can see the R squared, the R squared. So remember from first year statistics, the R is the coefficient of correlation. That's showing whether or not a relationship exists. The R squared is the coefficient of determination. So this is the strength of that relationship. So this is the number that you'll find between 0 and 1, with 0.702, 0.725 and 0.731, showing that quite a strong relationship does exist between those variables. So what this one means, for example, is a R squared of 0.702 is that 70.2% of the variance of the dependent variable, which was how likely a person would be to patronise the Hobbit's Choice restaurant, can be explained by the independent variables in the first model. So if we scroll down, we can see what that first model is. So here's our analysis of variation, showing our sum of squares, our degrees of freedom, mean squared, the F and the significance. Our significance again is under 0.05. Then the coefficients. So these coefficients have been calculated on the 3 different models. The first model there has 1 independent variable, the second one has 2 independent variables, and the third model has all 3 independent variables. So on this table we can see that our significance level, or our p-values, are all under 0.05. The other thing we can see here is our variance inflation factor. So all of these numbers here are less than 10s. So this is nothing to worry about here. If these results were higher than 10 though, this would indicate a high level of multicollinearity. And then we'd need to run a different kind of analysis. Okay, so what have we learned from this exercise? Well, what this is showing us is that the 3 main independent variables that can be used to predict our dependent variable, which is how likely someone is to patronise the Hobbit's Choice restaurant, are the older people, or depending on the year that they were born, who like wait staff wearing tuxedos, and they expect to pay a bit more for an average evening meal entree. Now, think about what you could advise the owner of the Hobbit's Choice restaurant to do with that information from this regression. So think about that. Make sure you save this output and upload it to the LMS. If you want any more information on how to interpret these results, have a look at Chapter 17 in the SPSS Analysis Without Anguish textbook. And until next week, take care.